Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So, good morning, everybody. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 7. Today's text is hopefully 35 and 36. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. So, I'll do text 35. And then we can do 36 together. How about that? Yada graha grasta tva tvachit dasati akrandate dhayayi yati vandate janam muhu swasan vakti hare jagat pate nara vaneti atma matir gata trapaha. So the translation there is, by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs very loudly, chants about the qualities of the Lord, When a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs and very loudly chants about the qualities of the Lord. Sometimes he sits to perform meditation and he offers respects to every living entity, considering him a devotee of the Lord. Constantly breathing very heavily, he becomes careless of social etiquette and loudly chants like a madman, Hare Krishna, O my Lord, O Master of the universe. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When one chants the Holy Lord in ecstasy, not caring for outward social conventions, it is to be understood that he is Atma Mati. In other words, his consciousness is turned toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 36. Tada pumam mukta samasta bandhanas tavava pavanu kritasaya kritihi nirdagdha bijanusaya mahayasa bhakti prayojana sameti adokshajam tada pumam mukta samasta bandhanas tadbhava bhavanu kritasaya kritihi nirdagha vijanasuya sayo mahayasa bhakti prayojane sameti adhoksajam tatpumam mukta samasta bandhanas tatbhava bhavanu krita saya kriti nirdagha Pijunasayo Mahiyasa Bhakti Prayojana Sameti Adoksajam. Wow, please devotees recite.
Yada puman mukta samasta bandhanas tadbhava bhavanu krita shaya kritihi nirdhagda hijanu shayo mahiyasa bhakti prayogena samit yadhokshajam.
Others, please try.
Tada puman
mukta samasta. Go ahead, Nagari.
Thank you, ma. Tada puman mukta samasta bandhanas tada pavanu krita shayakritihi nirdagda bijanushayo mahiyasa bhakti prayogena samitya dokshajam.
Puman mukta samasta bandhanas tad bhava bhavan krita sayakriti nirdagya vijanu sayo mahishasha bhakti prayojana samiti adhokshajam.
Anyone else? Okay. Tada, at that time, Puman, the living entity, Mukta, liberated, Samasta Bandhana, from all material obstacles on the path of devotional service. Tat Bhava, of the situation of the Supreme Lord's activities, Bhava, by thinking, Anukrita, made similar, Asaya Akriti, whose mind and body, Nirdagha, completely burned up. Bija, the seed or original cause of material existence. Anusaya, desire. Mahiyasa, very powerful. Bhakti, of devotional service. Prayogena, by the application. Sameti, achieves. Adoksajam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the reach of the material mind and knowledge. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The devotee is then freed from all material contamination because he constantly thinks of the Lord's pastimes, and because his mind and body have been converted to spiritual qualities. Because of his intense devotional service, his ignorance, material consciousness, and all kinds of material desires are completely burned to ashes. This is the stage at which one can achieve the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When a devotee is completely purified, he becomes Anya Bilasita Sunya. In other words, all of his material desires become zero, being burned to ashes, and he exists either as the Lord's servant, friend, father, mother, or conjugal lover. Because one thinks constantly in this way, One's present material body and mind are fully spiritualized, and the needs of one's material body completely vanish from one's existence. An iron rod put into a fire becomes warmer and warmer, and when it is red hot, it is no longer an iron, but an iron rod, but fire. Similarly, when a devotee constantly engages in devotional service and thinks of the Lord in his original Krishna consciousness, he no longer has any material activities, for his body is spiritualized. Advancement in Krishna consciousness is very powerful, and therefore, even during this life, such a devotee has achieved the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. This transcendental ecstatic existence of a devotee was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya writes as follows: Tat bhava bhava tat yata swarupam bhakti kechit bhakta Vinkayanti cha yatepsitam kechit tusnim japanti eva kechit sobhava karinaha. The ecstatic condition of devotional service was completely exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who sometimes danced, sometimes cried, sometimes sang, sometimes remained silent, and sometimes chanted the holy name of the Lord. That is perfect spiritual existence. Omagena timrandasya jananjana shalakaya. Chakshurun mitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Panchakalpa trubhyascha kripa sindhu revacha patita nama pavanabhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we continue discussing these qualities. Yesterday, Marichakra Prabhu was describing one who is situated in devotional service is certainly the control of his senses, and thus he is a liberated person. When such a liberated person, the pure devotee, hears of transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord's incarnation for the performance of various pastimes, his hair stands on end on his body, tears fall from his eyes, and in his spiritual realization, his voice falters. Sometimes he very openly dances, sometimes he sings loudly, and sometimes he cries. Thus he expresses his transcendental jubilation. So, yeah, again, more qualities are described of pure devotee, someone who is exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. And yes, yesterday we also spoke about, sometimes one may fake, these symptoms, but we're discussing that that is not the goal. The goal is not to fake these symptoms and pretend one is more advanced than he really is. So by the gradual execution of devotional service, gradually as one makes spiritual advancement, Charaka Prabhu had described, the different stages, the clearing stage, and, as we continue to advance in our Krishna consciousness, we'll eventually come to this perfectional stage. So in today's two verses, when a devotee becomes like a person haunted by a ghost, he laughs very, very loudly. So this analogy is given of a ghost. So why this comparison? So, our understanding of someone in the ghostly form, you might have heard it from elders, you might have seen it on TV if you watch TV, movies, different places, but, a ghost acts, very, very strangely. Laughing, crying, shouting. Someone, we say that if you're possessed by a ghost, if, a ghost has taken over control of your body, then, these symptoms may manifest. So what is the difference between being possessed by a ghost and having ecstatic symptoms? It is very, very similar, it seems like. That's why this comparison is there. And so when we see these symptoms, we need to be very, very mindful whether these are really ecstatic symptoms. And we can see in these two verses that the comparison being used is not to be taken lightly. That, there's no description being given here, at least in these two verses. There might be other places, but at least in these two verses, the prime example that we can aspire for is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so we see that even the ghost, he won't follow any social norms. And so this comparison is there of someone in perfect Krishna consciousness exhibiting these ecstatic symptoms. He also forgets social etiquette. The other example we remember from the Chaitanya Charitamrita is, of course, Lord Nityananda. He was an avadut, not so concerned about social norms and social etiquette. So the idea is that, of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, they were fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, fully absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, we understand that Lord Chaitanya is not just an incarnation of God, but the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's exhibiting these symptoms and showing what ecstatic symptoms look like, so that we can recognize it from a pure devotee of the Lord. Not just anybody, but someone who is fully realized, who has understood their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada, of course, he starts out the purport by giving the definition of pure devotional service, someone who is engaged in pure devotional service. Vilasita Sunyam. And so we understand that a pure devotee is someone who has no separate material desires other than hearing the name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And of course, the criteria in this particular verse is that everything has to be favorably performed for pleasing Krishna. That, there's no question of just remembering the Lord. We see that the example is given of, so many demons, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, so many demons, they were constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord. But unfortunately, it was not very, very favorable. And so, our devotional service in pure devotion has to be done favorably and without any tinge of material desire whatsoever. So we spoke about, how gradually one can make advancement by performing devotional service. No amount of, in the verses here, Prahlad Maharaj has been describing, there's so many different types of yogis that, come to Krishna consciousness, are practicing some type of yoga, but we realize the real purport of the Srimad Bhagavatam, conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, is that only by the practice of bhakti yoga or devotional service can one make a realistic and simplistic plan to go back home, back to Godhead in this very lifetime. So Gari Krishna Prabhu was also talking about the other day, that we need to stop our plan-making factory. This is kind of like, the basics of spiritual life, that we make so many plans. And, we've got this whole factory going on of how to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. But ultimately, we see that from the example of the pure devotees, that this separate plan-making factory, even though sometimes, most times our justification for our plan-making factory is that when I get old, I will become a real preacher, take up this Krishna consciousness very, very seriously. In the meantime, I'm just accumulating knowledge, trying to chant my rounds, trying to, do the best I can. Still, we have so many excuses. But ultimately, we need to be mindful that that can come any moment. It's not necessary that only when we get old, then death will come. Death can come at any second. Even right now, as we're hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam class, as we're, reciting these verses, that can come. So the idea is to be completely absorbed in bhakti yoga or devotional service, and in this way minimize any vacant time where one is not Krishna conscious. And over the past few weeks, we've also been speaking about how to be Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. And we see that, it is possible. There's, so many pure devotees currently on the planet that fit this description, who are completely engaged 24 hours a day in the devotional service of the Lord. And this is the key to be liberated even whilst in this material world. Hari Chakra Prabhu was mentioning how we're undergoing this material experience, but still we can be in this world, but we need to understand completely that we are not these bodies, we are not of this world. And so by engaging in devotional service exclusively, filling up all of our time with devotional service. And, if we want to understand this topic of devotional service a little bit better, we can read Nectar of Devotion, we can read Bhagavad Gita. There's chapters completely dedicated to describing the activities of devotional service. So Prabhupada, by his mercy, has given us this ISKCON movement where there's unlimited opportunities for engaging in the devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, we can gradually understand that we are not these bodies, that we are spirit soul. We spoke about how just by a moment's association of your devotee, we can make so much of spiritual advancement. So this is why we want to seek out senior association and take advantage of the association of pure devotees with the Lord. Because just like what's his name? Just like how Narad Muni was explaining, just by the association when his mother had died, just, by taking the, association of the pure devotees of the Lord, he was able to regain his original Swarup, his original position, just by associating with the advanced devotees of the Lord. So many sadhus, he had the association of. We see the same for Dhruva Maharaj. Of course, he wanted a kingdom, more better than what his father had. This was his initial, desire. But again, he went out searching, and eventually, we know that pastime. He had got so much of association, and eventually, when he realized, that the goal of life was, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, going back home, back to Godhead, he did not want anything. He was giving the example that, he is so lamentful that he was searching for broken glass. And, ultimately, of course, he did not want anything material, which he originally started out as his mission. So we also spoke about in the last few weeks, and this verse is highlighting it again, mukta samasta bandhana, that, one can be freed from all material bondage. Nirdagdha bija, and we spoke about how devotional service, bhakti yoga, burns the seed of material desires. And this is the goal, that, this material, incessant flow of material desires, in our mind, is what bound up in this material world, lifetime after lifetime after lifetimes, millions and millions and millions of lifetimes in the cycle of repeated birth and death. And then we spoke about also how 1426 says, one who engages in unalloyed bhakti, devotional service to the Lord, pure devotional service, he is able to transcend the three modes of material nature. So we, of course, said that we want to gradually uplift ourselves from this animal, life, this mode of ignorance, gradually elevate ourselves, mode of passion, and at least try to come to the mode of goodness. And of course, Bhagavad Gita gives us all the examples of how one acts, how one speaks, how one sees, all the descriptions of one in the mode of goodness. And then, of course, using the mode of goodness as the springboard, we can get onto the transcendental platform. And we see Arjuna is the classic example of one who had transcended the modes, that even though he was fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, killing so many entities, still he was not accumulating any bad karma, nor was he accumulating good karma. He was acting on the transcendental platform. Because he was doing his duty. We also spoke about Bhagavad Gita 647 last week. Of all the yogis, the Bhakti yogi is the highest of them all, because he is exclusively engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, which is a practical solution in this age of Kali Yuga, this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. We understand that there is this laws of karma, action and reaction, and we find that karma just produces reactions. Reactions creates new desires, and these desires, of course, ultimately all these material desires just create new births for us. And we understand now from Prahlad Maharaj's discussion, teachings to his classmates, that bhakti burns the seed of this material desires at its root. So Prabhupada, of course, here appropriately also gives this example of iron and iron rod and fire. That if iron is placed in fire, the rod gradually becomes warmer and warmer and warmer to the point where it becomes Krishna. The pilot of the kitchen is not lit. Okay, please use the other oven. I will come and light the flame later. So the analogy is that, if we take the association of pure devotees of the Lord, then in this way, just like how iron gradually becomes fire, if you place it in fire, similarly, we can spiritualize our entire being, that even though it may seem like we're in this material body, Of course, the body will still break down, the body will still do its thing. But if we percent engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then there is no separate material desire left. There's no opportunities for any separate material desire. Then we will be gradually making progress on this royal road of bhakti, back home, back to Godhead. The idea is that we want to fill every moment of the day with Krishna, his name, form, qualities, pastimes. And in this way, if we can fill our entire day with Krishna consciousness, just being conscious of Krishna, hearing his pastimes, there should be no opportunities for discussing anything else except Krishna consciousness. Yes, we all have so many, at least I have so many unwanted anarthas. Gradually, I need to make a plan in the association of devotees of how I'm to rid myself of these different anarthas. But the idea is to gradually soften our heart. And the best way, so many advanced devotees have given this concept that the best way to do it, there's no other way, no other way, no other way, apart from engaging in devotional service. We find that chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is by far one of the easiest ways to come into direct contact with the spiritual world, and not get caught up in this incessant flow of material desires. It can reshape everything, our outlook on life. It can reshape our, bodily demands, needs, so many things from the lens of acting on the spiritual platform can be resolved by just engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. And of course, I'm, including hearing, reading, chanting, all of these things in the realm of devotional service. So that if one is just absorbed in Krishna's pastimes, we can easily meditate on the pastimes of Krishna. There's, Prabhupada gave us Krishna book. So many nice pastimes are there in Krishna book. So that if we're constantly absorbed, at least in the pastimes of Krishna, then where is the time for engaging in Maya, being engaged by Maya as well? She's constantly trying to lure us away from Krishna consciousness, constantly, creating different opportunities for us to make some excuse to be away from Krishna and his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. So how to do that? Of course, so many examples are given to us. It depends on our propensity. If we like to sing and dance, then we should sing and dance for the pleasure of the Lord, rather than going to, nightclubs and parties, just for the purpose of fulfilling this desire of dancing. If we have the desire for music, then again, participate in the kirtan, glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thanks, Jagannath Pandit Prabhu. So in this way, we can gradually shed these layers of material desires. We can focus more on our japa instead of mechanically chanting. We can pray to the Supreme Lord just like a helpless person. And so many nice examples are given in the Shastra. The idea is, we don't want to engage in prajalpa, talking about other devotees, because we need to understand we don't realize who is who even in this material world. Someone may just be like a unassuming devotee, may not have all these perfectional qualities. But if we analyze, and get to know someone better, then, one may be able to see different qualities, because naturally our tendency is to focus on a person's negative qualities. How often do we get together to glorify a devotee's good qualities? At least here on the farm, we try to, glorify devotees on their birthdays, to just have this katha about giving their glorification. And yes, of course, on the groups also for devotees' birthdays, devotees try to glorify, each other on their birthdays as well. But we need to do this more often, not just wait for birthdays once a year. Because what are we doing the other 364 days? We're, highlighting this devotees' negative qualities. And so, we just remain stuck. And one day, a year, we try to get out of this negative mindset. But we are constantly judging each other. But why do we do that? Because we're constantly trying to protect our own false ego. We still care about our name, fame, adoration. And, we continue to chant inattentively. We spoke about in the last few classes about, we said this concept is there of making devotees happy. But we also understand that, what might make certain devotees happy might not be the best thing for them. Because, if someone is talking negatively about another devotee, it could make him happy. But this is not real happiness. So the goal is engaging ourselves 100% in the devotional service of the Lord. And in this way, we can't go wrong. So we need to be mindful also that sometimes we have this pattern where we want to discuss, whatever's going on in our life, in other devotees' lives. And we use the presence of senior devotees to justify, our thoughts, to justify talking about another devotee. And so we understand from the Bhagavatam that depending on what the goal is, what the outcome of such a discussion might be, that there can be all sorts of implications and reactions. I'm thinking of the example of how at the disrobing of Draupadi, there were so many devotees present in the assembly. So many senior advanced devotees were present in that assembly. And of course, ultimately we know even Grandfather Bhishma was present in that assembly. But when this heinous act was going on, what happened? That Bhishma Dev remained silent. And, whereas he should have spoken up and, stopped that heinous activity. But of course, we understand, Bhishma Dev even had to take the reaction for his silence. So sometimes we feel that, silence is an appropriate measure in any discussion. But we understand from the Bhagavatam, I was trying to find a reference. I mean, there's many references, but I didn't get to synthesize my thoughts. Maybe one of these scholars in our midst can give the actual reference. But our understanding is that, when we hear someone speaking, negatively, not giving positive vibes about another devotee, we should immediately leave the place. And if we cannot, do that, what does the Shastra say? I'm just remembering from memory now, but we need to find some verses to corroborate, but something about, cutting the person's tongue out. And if that's not possible, then one should commit suicide. And, there is examples given in the Bhagavatam of, these scenarios. But, sadhu ninda, we need to be very, very careful of making offenses against devotees. Because like we said, we don't understand who's who. Even in the material world, we can hardly understand, who's who in the spiritual world. We still certainly do not understand, who amongst us, might be an advanced devotee. We see the example there of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was, acting, in a way that, yeah, again, he was doing social norms. And, he was literally like, a madman at some point. But again, there was a purpose. Of course, he was a very, very advanced devotee. Still, he did not want to have this interaction with the material world. And so he was, in one sense, acting like an avadhuta. So, just bringing things closer to home here on the farm. Of course, Prabhupada, gave us this process of simple living, high thinking. We do not want to get completely entangled in the complexities of city life, and all the distractions that go with it. Krishna was a village boy after all, and I was just I saw an article the other day where some teacher was confiscating, I think it was, I don't know, grade 5 or grade 7 students, confiscating their cell phones because they were completely distracted in class, not paying attention to the subject matter that the teacher was teaching. And then, of course, there was an uproar from the parents of these children. And, the children were testifying to the police. The police was called, and, this abuse was going on of the children. That was the charge. And the children were saying, testifying to the police, the teacher took my cell phone away and I didn't know what to do with my hands. This is how distraught I was, how affected I was, even mentally. What to speak of, physically, that I just didn't know what to do with my hands. So we see that we live in this digital age these days. So many distractions are there. Gari Krishna was giving his practical advice yesterday, of the cell phone, and how to deal with these things on a very, very practical level. So we understand bhakti burns the seed of material desires. We should not trade it for anything else. We should, diligently try to fill our every moment of the day with devotional service. And we can quickly do an analysis, at the end of the day. How much opportunities did I pass by of, engaging in devotional service? And if we can fill our life 100% with devotional service, then we will be making gradual advancement in Krishna consciousness. The goal of bhakti is not respectability. It is to transform our heart, soften our heart, to make us ready so that we can take up our eternal residence in the spiritual world. Unless we're able to soften our hearts, then, this material experience we're undergoing can be very difficult, very, very traumatizing. When Krishna becomes everything, our life and soul, in this very life, then we can understand that our ego is gradually dissolving. this material desires is gradually being burnt. We see that, similar to the case of Prahlad Maharaj, he was fearless. Didn't matter whether getting elephants to stampede him, throw him off bridges, cliffs, mountains, and then gradually we'll find another symptom happens when our life becomes filled with Krishna, nothing but Krishna. That bondage, to this material world, family, society, in this way, that we will be gradually making advancement. And, like mentioned here, that one will gradually reach the place of Adok Saja, the Lord beyond material perception. So we spoke about also in the last few days, weeks, about, Krishna sees, Hari Chakra Prabhu was explaining, Krishna sees our intention. What is our intention? Yes, we say that, very loosely, devotees always have good intentions, but we all need to analyze individually for ourselves. What is my intention in a certain act? So, we can apply that to every single activity that we do throughout the day, from the time we wake up till we close our eyes and go to sleep. That what was my intention? What was my intention? And if we find that, too many times we're coming across this intention of, being envious of another devotee, being envious of other devotees, being envious of other yatras, we can understand that no good is going to come off this envious nature, no matter how we package it. We can say externally the right things. We can give classes that, very nice classes, so to speak. But ultimately, we need to analyze what is my intention in my every action. And ultimately, we find that, if one has good intentions, then these good intentions will gradually come out. No matter how much one may try to suppress another's good intentions, ultimately, Krishna is in charge. Krishna knows better. Hari Chakra Prabhu was mentioning how that we can't fool ourselves, and we cannot fool Krishna because Krishna knows. So ultimately, we will get judged by our intentions. The whole goal of bhakti yoga or devotional service, we understand, is not pleasing our own senses. This is the mistake that we've been making since time immemorial, trying to gratify our own senses. We want to do the test, do the acid test. Does this please Krishna's senses? And if it does, then no reaction is going to be there. But if it does not please Krishna's senses, then ultimately we can understand that we're going to get some reaction, and sometimes, some very serious reaction for our intentions. So we said one simple act that we can do is the 6 loving exchanges of devotees. We can engage in these 6 loving exchanges, offering gifts in charity, accepting gift, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad and offering prasad. And gradually, if we desire to imbibe the 26 qualities of devotee in our own life, we very easily can evaluate another devotee's qualities against these 26 qualities. But how often do we put ourselves on the red chair? We spoke about, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's example of sitting in the red chair and getting feedback from devotees. How often do we do that? So we understand that our mind, keeps us trapped. Some months ago, I forgot about it. Some months ago, we, gave this description of the mind and, how the mind is very, very erratic in what it does, thinks, says, and its activities as well. But we understand the Vedas gives the description of the mind that it is like a drunk monkey that has been bitten by a scorpion and haunted by a ghost. There is no telling what it will do next. So, we should not let our mind run loose. We understand from Bhagavad Gita that, the mind is impetuous. It's like the wind. And of course, we need to rein it in. So, we need to try to emulate pure devotees of the Lord. And so many examples are given there in the Bhagavatam. Vidura, Sudama Brahman, Dhruva Maharaj, of course, Prahlad Maharaj is narrating here to his classmates. So many amazing examples that we can aspire for and remain focused in our devotional service. The idea is we want to be like Arjuna. We gave that example that, when his martial guru was requesting the Pandavas to shoot at the eye of the fish, he asked the question, what do you see? And each brother came up and they all, said they can see the sky, they can see the body of the fish and so many things, but, he didn't give them permission to shoot. When Arjuna came up, we need to be single-pointed and, yes. Okay, ready to do Guru Puja here. We can go ahead and continue. You can continue. We want to be determined like Arjuna, single, pointed, focused, not distracted by, all the other things in the surroundings. When his martial guru asked him, what do you see? He said, the eye of the fish. He asked, do you see the body of the fish? No. Do you see the clouds? Do you see the sky? No. All I see is the eye of the fish. And he asked him to shoot, and of course he hit on target. So we need to become determined, single-pointed like Arjuna was. And in this way, if we can fill our life with just Krishna consciousness, and on a practical level, we can say that, if you have a few minutes to spare, rather than be idle, because we know idle means devil's workshop, just pick something up, just read it, in between going through places, we can, if we're driving, we can hear Krishna consciousness. We should immediately pick, listen to some, entertain or indulge in these negative thought patterns. Okay, that's all I had, devotees. Any comments, questions, corrections, additions, subtractions, corrections? Please share your thoughts and realizations. Zoom.
Good gosh, Dhruva. You say that's all you got. You touched on so many huge points. You've left my head spinning. Gosh.
The goal is devotional service. Simple.
Anyway, thank you for a nice class. You gave me so many things to think about. I don't know which one to concentrate on. A lot of, gosh, a lot of great points. Any one of them we could discuss for a long time. You're talking about plan making, and I was thinking about the distinction between the need for plan making for Krishna consciousness and shutting down the plan factory, which is all about material plans for sense gratification. That kind of plan making we want to stop. Not easy to stop. The mind is vast. It's a vast reservoir of impressions. But the plan making that arises from the mind for the purpose of sense gratification needs to be shut down. But we should have a plan for spiritual life, and that plan ideally is pretty simple. It's that I I need to be Krishna conscious right now. Prahlad Maharaj's message is that to his classmates is that now is the time. You're only 5 years old. They're arguing that, hey, we're little kids. Why can't we just play now? And Dhruva is saying, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that no, now is the time. You need to begin now. And there are so many reasons for that. One of which is that we don't know how much time we have. Our chance can be lost at any time. So we can't afford to take any chances. Hari Chakraprabhu was speaking about the process of purifying the mind. And it's very challenging, but he gave the example of purifying dirty water by adding clean water. Now, if you have a very large reservoir, you can't just dump it out and start with fresh water. You have to displace the dirty water. And that's the condition that we face with our mind. It is a huge repository of impressions from many lifetimes. Very, very difficult, very time consuming to try to purify. It has taken lifetimes to get it into the condition that it is in, conditioned by so many impressions. Constantly, all day, every day, the mind is absorbing impressions from everything that we experience. And we've done that for lifetimes. And unfortunately, most of what is stored in that vast reservoir is garbage. It's not just useless, it's counterproductive. It actually serves to impede our progress. So we talked also yesterday about the different stages of bhakti and anartha nivritti, the clearing stage. The clearing stage can take a really long time because it means clearing out all the garbage in the mind, filling the mind with nothing but pure Krishna consciousness. And it's critical because the mind is a source of bondage. The mind is what carries us from one lifetime to another. It's the mind that directs us to our next birth based upon all of the accumulated impressions, the influence of the modes of nature, which is actually an infection. So we're infected by this mode and infected by that mode. And when you're infected, then you have to suffer the disease. It's just a matter of time before, there's a period of germination, but eventually you have to suffer the disease. So the mind is a colossal impediment, requires clearing the anarthas in the mind is a mammoth undertaking. And so unless we want to continue suffering within the scope of material nature, and material nature means we have to suffer in all kinds of ways. We don't know what the future holds. There are elements of karma that we have yet to realize, and the way that our karma plays out, it may introduce greater impediments to our performance of devotional service. Ultimately, there is no impediment to devotional service, but it can become extremely challenging. And, sometimes there may be interruptions. Death is an interruption. Then you have to go through a period of unconsciousness, and then a term of imprisonment in the womb, and then all kinds of misery and nonsense in childhood. It's all miserable, and it can be worse. There are all kinds of terrible conditions that one may be subjected to. Right now, maybe the conditions in our life are not that bad, but somewhere in the world there are people suffering extremely hellish conditions. That can happen to us also. Sometimes our karma may be that we don't have the opportunity for the association of devotees, or the opportunity to read transcendental literature. Sometimes people are born into unfortunate situations where opportunities are few and far between. So taking another birth is very risky. Even if we have every opportunity, we may not necessarily take it. We can't predict how we're going to react to different circumstances in the future. We may make the wrong decisions. We may be overcome by Maya. So very risky business. The job that we're facing is a very big job. It's daunting. We have to purify this vast reservoir. It takes time to clear out all the garbage. It's a process of gradual displacement. So when Dhruva speaks about filling our life with Krishna consciousness, that's important, because it means we want to displace the garbage with the greatest efficiency in order to hasten the process, so that it doesn't become dragged out across lifetimes. So Srila Prabhupada created wonderful opportunities for us. ISKCON, many temples, deities, so many opportunities for devotional service, lots of opportunities for hearing and chanting, all the 9 processes of devotional service and the association of devotees, all kinds of wonderful opportunities. If we're very intelligent, we will take advantage of the opportunities, because we may not always have those opportunities. I can tell you from practical experience that sometimes life throws whammies at you, and even the opportunities may be within reach. You may not be able to take advantage of them. Getting old is really terrible. You may face all kinds of limitations. Terrible things can happen. Um, for devotees, we rely so much on the engagement of our senses, but in old age, your senses break down. We want to read transcendental literature, but what do you do when your eyes fail? And we want to hear the holy names, but what do you do when you go deaf? We want to count our japamala. What do you do when arthritis is so severe you can't hold a japamala anymore? These are all real things that devotees experience in their old age. I have many god siblings who are um, suffering the pangs of old age and leaving their body in droves. And I myself am experiencing these things. It's You can't imagine what it's like until it happens to you. Until you actually experience it for yourself. It's really hard to relate to. Um, you know, Imagine being racked with pain so severe you want to scream, and but 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, unrelenting, agonizing pain, and no way to ever get any relief. Pain that makes it almost impossible to sleep. Pain that, just um, you just lose the will to live because it's so miserable. There, so Prahlad Maharaj suggests while you're young, youthful, while you have um, your faculties in good working order, you have some youthful vitality, you have the energy, everything is working well. Now is the time to apply yourself wholeheartedly to this process, because later it will get much harder. It will get much, much harder. Um, Now is the time. And we need to start immediately we because one, we don't know how much time we have, and two, we also don't know how big a job we're facing, but we can take it for granted that it's pretty big. We've got a mind with an immense capacity. It holds impressions of many lifetimes. It's a huge, vast reservoir. We don't consciously remember all of where we've been, but it's all there in our subtle body. It's all there in our mind. Everything that we've done for lifetimes is still stored, but it can't. There is a limit to it, um, and if you add more of the right kind of stuff, positive elements, Krishna conscious impressions, there is a point at which um, there is no room for anything more without um, displacing or overwriting something that's already there. So, constantly adding Krishna conscious impressions gradually uh, overwhelms all of the nonsense. So that's the process of anartha nivritti, and we have to go through that process and complete that process if we want to get to the stage of bhava or prema. Anartha nivritti is still, we still have quite a ways to go, even if we complete anartha nivritti. There's still nishta and ruchi and asakti. Um, Nishta is another challenge, becoming steady. Um, so, all of these require time and effort. But we really want to try to complete the process as quickly as possible in one lifetime, ideally. But if we don't apply ourselves with sufficient determination, it can get easily dragged out through many lifetimes. and that can be really unfortunate because sometimes in subsequent lifetimes you may actually go backwards. Sometimes forward, sometimes backwards. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's risky business. Right now we have a good opportunity, so it behooves us to take advantage. We have a wonderful opportunity here at Gita Nagari. There's countless opportunities for devotional service. There's no dearth of opportunities for service. There's so much service that needs to be done, and it's all sorely needed. So great opportunities to benefit ourselves. Anything that we do, any little thing, is greatly appreciated by Guru and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada used to tell us that if you turn 1 screw for Krishna, he will remember you forever. So we try to be screwy, turn a lot of screws, turn all the screws we can. There's lots of screws to turn at Gita Nagari. So let's turn screws and be remembered by Krishna, because then we have the benefit of Krishna's well wishes, and a difficult job can become way easier. All right, I jabbered enough.
Thank
Thank
you,
you again for your class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Yes, now Kalaswarup Prabhu is also just reminding that the marketplace is going to be open very soon. Gopranim is coming up. There's a bonus. So when you turn that screw, Krishna will remember for many lifetimes on Gopranim. So even that marketplace is coming up. Of course, ordinarily there's just unlimited services. But if you want special service, like how Devamrita Maharaj says, he also wanted special service, when he took up the BBT service, because, he wanted to please Srila Prabhupada. So in this way, you want special service, Gopranim is coming up. Take advantage of the sale that's going on during that period of time. So of course, appropriate in this context also is this analogy of ghosts, that, we understand. I didn't mention that. We understand what is a ghost. A ghost is a jiva stuck, between bodies. Still has, like Taraka Prabhu was saying, this subtle body is there carrying all of this karma from many millions and millions of lifetimes. All these desires, they don't just vanish, when one especially becomes a ghost. So we understand when there's some, tragic accident or something, someone takes his own life, suicide, these things result in getting a ghost body. And so when you have a ghost body, all these desires are still there, but you don't have a gross body to fulfill these material desires that one has. And so one just becomes increasingly frustrated and suffers even in that ghost body. So the understanding is the soul is entrapped and being carried by this subtle body and, undergoing all of this immense suffering. So we don't want to, be in these situations. Kapila Dev has given lots of descriptions about how, this transition takes place. And, if one does not have a suitable body ready, then unfortunately one remains in this suffering. So we don't want to get these ghost bodies and act like a ghost. We want nothing less but pure devotional service. And, like we use, Hari Chakra Prabhu was using the analogy, just fill your life with Krishna. If you get to the problem, I think someone asked the question to Guru Maharaj one time, sounds to me like there's too much of Krishna. What about me? So if you get to that realization of too much of Krishna, you're on a good track. That you should discuss, with senior devotees and have extensive discussions. But you're on the right track if you've got too much of Krishna in your life. You're definitely making spiritual advancements if you're able to take the lessons. But if there's too much of Krishna, good thing. That's just my perspective. Anyone else, please share your thoughts and realizations on this very important subject matter of the analogies given in the verse and Prabhupada. Everybody's made a plan how they're going to fill their life with Krishna at every second of the day.
Hi, Krishna. Good morning. Dina has her hand up. I don't know if she's still there, but she had.
Oh, please go, Mother Lily Kishore.
Aye. Sorry.
Hi, Krishna. So, yes, I agree with Tarka, but you made so many points, Dhruva. It's almost like I couldn't keep up at points. It was so good. It was a lot. But what really I was thinking about was when you were talking about when we're offended or we think we're offended by another devotee, and we feel like we need to talk about this and I don't know, straighten it out or whatever. And I know your Guru Maharaj wrote in one of his books that when I've offended someone and they tell me I need to look at me and see, well, what did I do? If someone comes to me, like you said, in the red seat, or not say, oh, how could they think that about me, but say, what could that be about me? But I also think that, like in Bhagavad Gita, where it says, not a blade of grass moves without the Lord's sanction. If I'm placed in association and service with someone that I think is offending me, there's a reason. And when there's an American saying they rub you the wrong way, it's like, yeah, if I'm in service with like sandpaper Devi Dasi, it's because I've got some rough edges. And I think it's Krishna's arrangement to say, I'm going to help you look at you. And people like to quote that adage, when one finger points away, three point back. But I think we should use that like an active tool. So then look at the three pointing back, because that's who wins the vote. It's 3 against 1. And 3 is saying it might be you, then it might be me. And that I should really look at then what, I'm sitting down with, say, Dina Polika, and we're going to make garlands, and I've got this idea in my head, it's going to be like this. And then she says, oh, I have a different way. And now I feel offended. Well, what's that about? Is it my fear of change? Is it my complacency? I'm used to doing it this way and I'd rather do it this way. Is it me thinking, how dare she, I'm older than her, and whatever it is, I need to look at me. And that Krishna is giving me an opportunity through that association to make positive changes and to go in prayer and say, help me, Lord. I'm offended by this person. Something's wrong with me, not with them. So that was more what I was thinking when Dhruva Maharaj brought up that point about when we feel offended by someone or we feel a need to gossip about another devotee. It really is that I need to look at me and what's going on with me and ask the Lord and other devotees, senior devotees, peers, even younger devotees, to help me with that. Like, I've seen this now as a problem. Please help me so that I don't carry this. And like Taraka Prabhu said, maybe completely blow off an opportunity because I'm so self-centered that I can't see that I'm really the problem there. All right, boom.
You're muted, Dhruva Prabhu.
Thanks. Sorry. Yes. Thank you so much, Mother Lila Kishore. Yes, so many technologies are there, given by so many devotees of, how to address these things, but somehow we forget to use it. And so it's nice if others can remind us. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj spent so much of time in Gita Nagari training devotees, how to use these technologies in our day-to-day lives. So many opportunities are there. And so I hope and pray that, when these opportunities come to use it, we, remind each other of these technologies. So thank you for that reminder, Mother Leela Kishori. Dina Palika Prabhu, please take it away.
I will, I'll third what Tarka Prabhu and Mother Lily Kishori said, that it was a really nice synthesis of like the week's classes. You were speaking about being engaged in service 24 hours, and then in the end you were making some points about hearing and chanting, and Tarka Prabhu touched on it as well, but I'm wondering if you have or you can share your experience or tips after having practiced so many years, when the body maybe is not cooperating due to illness or a broken leg or something chronic or whatever it is, that how because it's especially whenever, like, if you're a younger devotee, or I don't know, until a certain point, you rely a lot on your body to be able to keep you engaged, using that instrument in Krishna's service. So if there's some impediment to that, it can be difficult. So I'm just wondering, what's your tips or experience on how to remain engaged even when the body is not fully cooperative?
Yeah, I think you touch on it now that of course the first point is to recognize that we need this body to facilitate our devotional service. And so Prabhupada, of course, wanted us to take care of our health so that we can perform devotional service. But of course, as other devotees can please also share their thoughts and realizations. But ultimately, no matter what the impediment is, we know from the Shastra, even the blind man, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even the blind man, was trying to follow the instructions of his guru. That, he had this impediment where he couldn't see, but his guru told him to read Bhagavad Gita. And so, recite Bhagavad Gita. So in this way, he was still making that attempt, even though on a very practical level, it seems, on a material level, it seems like futile. So still we can make different arrangements. And this is why friendships are very, very important in Krishna consciousness. That, if we have a friendship partner, not necessarily husband and wife, it doesn't have to be. It can just be, your genuine well-wisher friend who can help facilitate these things. I'm just thinking, Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj, of course, one of the main thing Maharaj was known was for dancing. And even in those last days, despite Maharaj, just having one leg, it's not like he just sat, I remember the one, final kirtan or final kirtans that we had, even Maharaj on one leg was standing and dancing. I was, holding his other arm and, trying to balance him. And, other devotees came to help as well. But, when these impediments are there, sometimes they can just be material impediments. But if we're meditating sincerely, what's our intention? Trying to please Krishna, trying to, whatever circumstances is there, engage in devotional service. I was thinking, of course, I'm also aging. I've been here now 18 years, and gradually, what services will I do when I can't, drive skid loaders and do these different things? And I was thinking, wow, so many nice opportunities are there. Making jewelry for the Lord, sewing, cloth for the Lord. So many activities are there. I'm praying, of course, that the Supreme Lord will help facilitate, different services like that, as time progresses or whatever the limitation may be. So I'm constantly thinking, okay, what services can I do? How can I, just fill my life with Krishna consciousness some way or the other, not just waiting for it to happen and, then, okay, I don't know what to do, become bewildered. So just some thoughts and ideas I had on your question, comment. Others, please share. I got an excavator that's bringing some stones. So please continue. Kalaswarup Prabhu is here too. Please continue discussing whilst I quickly run out. Devotees, share, please, realizations. By practicing devotional service, you can make friends also. So many opportunities are there, doing service together. You can get to know devotees better. And, the ultimate goal, as far as I understand, is pleasing Sri Sri Radha Damodar and not necessarily pleasing Krishna. I know, controversial points. Harichakra Prabhu, take it away.
No, Hare Krishna. If Vyasadev had to leave, why would Vyasadev tell Parishit Maharaj that continue the dialogue? How is he going to continue the dialogue?
No, come on. You guys are all representatives. I just have this excavator. I told Damodar Kacha, please be there. But, Dam, I love Dam. But if he's not there, then this guy's going to dump the stone in the middle of the road like he did last time. No, come on. This is, nice subject matter that we want to help encourage each other. It's not just, I have to be there, but we want to, help each other with technologies that we can do in our day-to-day lives to fill our life with Krishna. This is the goal, devotional service. Be encouraged by each other so that we can, be strong in our resolve. Okay. We heard just now that silence is not a good thing. Even Bhishma Dev, by being silent, it wasn't good. He had to say something. So come on, please. Churn the nectar. Bhakti Siddhartha always wanted things to be brought to the forefront. Let's talk about it. Otherwise, I haven't been invited for the Sunday feast yet. I'm still waiting. Hopefully it's going to happen soon.
Hare Krishna, Dhruva Prabhu.
Haribo, Mother Jamba, please.
Thank you for your class.
Oh,
This is just a reminder to everyone to please join us tomorrow evening at 6 for Maharaja's, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaja's Vyasa Puja celebration.
all right.
We're looking forward to seeing everyone and thanking you or thanking everyone in advance that is making this
French fries.
great event.
In the temple?
I have a question pardon?
Please.
So in the temple is where the event will be?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, at 6 o'clock. Please come.
All right. You have a question.
And well, I have a question and a comment that I'm not exactly sure how to formulate this question,
Please.
except that sometimes a lot of times I'm very inarticulate.
No.
But I know we've been talking about the symptoms of ecstasy, the hair standing on end. I guess there are ecstatic symptoms, or it appears that there are ecstatic symptoms in every tradition, every religious tradition. In the first tradition that I was raised up in, of course, was, in the Pentecostal church, where, the expression, being slain in the Holy Spirit was, very predominant.
Right.
And, speaking in tongues, dancing is also one of the symptoms. In the, and I'm thinking of the Sufi tradition, there's the twirling that looks it's very, very beautiful. It almost looks as if they're, floating. And my question is, I have heard, other people speak, unfavorably about these other expressions of ecstasy and, other traditions. Can you speak to that? Because sometimes people, criticize those particular expressions and say, oh, well, it's not sincere. And how could somebody be speaking in tongues or, whatever. But
Right.
it's been my understanding from what we've heard or learned from Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj that every tradition is essentially the same in terms of the belief of, that there is a higher power. The only difference is the way in which we perhaps express that love, in that particular tradition.
Yes. Harishakra Prabhu, this one's on you.
That's that's.
Thank you, Mother Jamba. Yes, we will.
Yes, Hari Chakra Prabhu.
Just take it away. I mean, I can say a few words, but Harishakra Prabhu, please remove this doubt that, there's other traditions and, the Bible is real and, all these great personalities giving the foundation in these different traditions is all real and not bogus. Please enlighten us.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Okay, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, the Jamvati Mataji, yeah, it's true that in every tradition there are some symptoms that are exhibited. But take for instance, even in our own tradition, sometimes, like yesterday when we were talking about how some symptoms emanate from someone who is really absorbing Krishna consciousness. And even Taraka Prabhu asked a question about it, that how do we identify it? Of course, we know that sometimes some people fake it. Some people will fake the situation. Because I remember, if you read Srila Prabhupada's Lelamrita, I've forgotten the page, but one time they said that one guy came and he was in the temple and he was rolling on the ground and saying that he's in the static, and Prabhupada told the devotees, take a cane and go and beat him up. See, so some people fake it. Definitely, it's in all traditions. Some people will sometimes fake that situation. So similarly, in Christendom and everything, some people fake it also. But there is a genuine one. Because if you read about the day of Pentecost, it was a day when a lot of people, it's like a festival time when a lot of people have traveled all over the world to come and gather together. But when they gathered, and these people were exhibiting the symptoms of the Holy Spirit, the disciples of Jesus, the tongues that was explained that when they spoke, like I will be speaking in Tree, but even though I'm speaking in Tree, but the person who doesn't understand Tree, but who understands English or understands Spanish, could understand what I'm saying. You see, that is the power of God. That is what is referred to as speaking in tongues. You speak, and everybody around will understand what you are saying. And if even nobody understands it, there must be another person who also goes into that mood, and that person will interpret every single word that you are saying to the understanding of the others. But if you speak in a party, if you say you are speaking in tongues and nobody even understands what you are saying, what is the benefit of it for the congregation? It's useless. So today, a lot of people are doing that. They say, I'm in the spirit, you'll be speaking in tongues, and nobody even have an understanding. And you'll be surprised to know somebody will be fighting, arguing with someone, fighting so seriously with the next person. The next moment, he enters the church room and he's speaking in tongues. You think God is that cheap? God is not that cheap. You must, like I said, the quotation I always give about Galatians 5, it explains vividly that when you are actually in the spirit, you bear the fruits of the spirit. And he tells you what the fruit of the spirits are. And it goes further to explain that when you are actually in the flesh, when you are very, what do we call it? Carnal, materialistic, you bear the fruits of the flesh. You can't hide it from anybody. In worshiping Krishna, there is nothing that you can hide. If you are actually absorbing Krishna, you are actually absorbing the Holy Spirit, you will bear the fruits of the Spirit. Everyone will see how you bear the fruits of the Spirit. You cannot hide it from anyone. So what you are saying is true. The genuine one is there, but we also have the fake ones. And the more the tradition gets watered down, then the fake always supersede the genuine ones. You get what I mean? And that's why Krishna also said that even when he recite Bhagavad Gita, he say, as time goes on, there come a time that the tradition seem to be lost. And anytime the tradition seem to be lost, he will either come by himself or he sends his representative to come and repeat it. Because that is the nature of this world. With time, things get so watered down to the extent that the original things seem to be lost. So then Krishna, being so merciful, he comes down or he sends his representative to come and re-establish that system. So of course, every tradition has got it. And of course, like we were saying, even in our own tradition of talking about the chanting of the holy names being so powerful, if you read about the offenses against the chanting of the holy name, offense number 4, what does it say? Offense number 4. It says, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or a literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. This is acknowledging other literatures, not only the Vedic literature, because he said it's an offense to the holy name to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or a literature in pursuance of the Vedic version, which means there are some literatures which are not directly Vedic literatures, but they are literatures in pursuance. That is, literatures directing to the goal of the Vedic literatures. And any literature that is in pursuance of the Vedic literatures doesn't need to be, blasphemed. As well, just like not blaspheming the Vedic literatures. And all these literatures are there because God makes himself available to us according to time, place, and circumstances. And then so every tradition that you go, there is something that shows that it proves to you that you are on the right path. But of course, like we said, when paramparam system, when the paramparam breaks down, the fake begins to overshadow the real thing. And so every tradition has that, what do we call it? Shows some symptoms of love of God. Every tradition has it. Definitely. We cannot deny that. Do I make some sense?
Yes, yes. And
You
ultimately,
make absolute sense. Yes.
and ultimately, Bhagavad Gita's advice to us is what? Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. So it's not saying that there's no other religions. Yes, we know there's a gradual elevation of the living entity. And so the idea is, all these things can create some confusion. Kala Swarup Prabhu has something to add here.
Yes, so of course what Hari Chakra Prabhu was saying was correct. There is real and fake manifestations of these ecstatic symptoms. But I just wanted to bring up the point also. It's not always that the person who is exhibiting these symptoms in a false manner knows that they're or is consciously doing it falsely. Because people can get goosebumps and hair standing on end, from very moving music or a movie or something, which is just a result of the modes of nature. But the experience is real. It's not like they're faking, dancing around or, somebody's on drugs and dancing around ecstatically. It's not like they're faking that experience, but we understand that it's under the modes of nature and not transcendental. So somebody can be really having, these experiences of ecstasy, but it's a material ecstasy, not a transcendental ecstasy that we read about, the Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion and other places. So they're just my thoughts.
Thank you, Kala Prabhu.
Yeah. What Karasru Prabhu is saying, yeah, he has a point. Of course, sometimes even ordinarily, like somebody will listen to Bob Marley's music and the person goes into a different mood. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It happens. We know it's there because, but we are talking, I think the question Jambavati asked, he was talking about the real thing. How people, is it really established that in every tradition there is the real symptoms?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Listen,
that was
can I
what I
call
was
you
trying to
back?
explain.
I'm in a Zoom meeting right now.
So that was what
Okay.
that was what I was trying to say, that every practice there is a genuine symptoms. Now,
Yeah.
Dhruva Prabhu was also saying that Krishna says abandon all varieties of religion. And when Krishna says abandon all varieties of religion, I don't think he's referring to different traditions. Krishna taught us so much things, so much processes of how to develop what do we call it? Steady consciousness. He taught us bhakti, he taught us karma yoga, he taught us Astanga yoga, he taught us all the different types of yogas. And all of it, that it was to help us culminate into what? One thing, bhakti. So Krishna is saying that why do we have to go through all these systematic process that will eventually culminate us into bhakti, which is, and so he's saying the ultimate goal of bhakti is for you to completely surrender unto him. And that's why he says, don't even waste time going through all this process. Just surrender unto me. So as long as you are doing something that connects you directly into the surrendering to Krishna, that is why Krishna is referring to. Why do we waste all this time? Just surrender unto Krishna. Somebody will say, oh, no, I don't believe in God. I believe in nature. I believe in doing good to one another. Of course, gradually the person will be rising. And so if you read a book like Christ and Krishna, Ketananda Maharaj was saying something that even the worshippers of Kali, as long as they remain in the house of the Vedas, gradually they will be elevated to come to the platform of Bhakti. So every process has a systematic way of culminating into Bhakti, love of God. But there are some people want to know, why do I have to do it? It's like if even you tell people to chant, some people will ask you, why do I have to chant? And then the scripture is there. You give to the scripture. You give the person Bhagavad Gita, or you give the person whatever scripture it is, the Bible, the Quran, whatever. And he has to read it to find out why he has to chant. But there is another person who might not even know how to read. And immediately you say you have to chant the holy names of God. Immediately the person say, okay, then he starts chanting. So by the time the scholar reads all the books and become convinced that he has to chant, the one who just accepted to chant will be way ahead of that person. And that is another aspect of Sankirtan. When you go out to preach to people, some people you meet and immediately you tell them to chant, they will not even ask why do they have to chant. They will just take it and start chanting. And when they get their benefit, definitely Krishna doesn't let the benefit pass you, the one who offered them the opportunity. Prabhupada has set the system in such a way that every single step you take, you get benefit out of it. It might be the direct benefit or it might be an indirect benefit. You grab an offered flower somewhere, and whilst you are holding, you meet someone on the road and you just give the offered flower to the person gets some sukriti. And because the person has gotten some sukriti, indirectly, somehow or the other, so part of the sukriti is given to you also. All right?
Thank you. Any last points?
Sukadev should leave now so that Parashit can also leave.
My dear sir, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being there. We are very grateful. Rantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, devotees of the Lord ki jai.
Thank you, Dhruva, for your class.